The night sky above the colony was not peaceful. Stars that once shone bright now seemed weak, fading behind the glow of enemy warships. The Empire fleet had arrived. Dark shapes, sharp and cruel, moved through the void like predators circling wounded prey. The small alien colony of Sayers, 4 had no chance. Everyone knew it. Governor Talren stood inside the command hall, staring at the screens with empty eyes. His people were engineers, miners, and farmers, not warriors. Their defense towers had fired their last shots days ago before the cannons overheated and collapsed. The shield dome flickered above the colony like a dying candle flame. Soon it would fall. In the underground shelters, families huddled together, whispering prayers. Children clung to their mothers, asking questions that had no answers. Will they kill us, Mama? Will anyone come to help us? But there was no help. Not here. Not now. Talren finally spoke to his council in a voice that carried only despair. No ships are coming. No allies will answer. We are alone. His words fell heavy across the room. Everyone lowered their heads. The Empire's reputation was known across the galaxy, ruthless, merciless, endless. They did not conquer for peace. They conquered for fire. They conquered so the survivors would never dare to resist again. Suddenly, the comms crackled. A new message filled the air, cold and sharp. The Empire's commander appeared on the screen. His scaled face twisted into a cruel smile. People of Sayers 4, he hissed, you have one choice. Surrender your colony, your resources, and your children, or watch your world burn. You have 1 hour. The transmission ended, leaving silence. Some of the council shouted in anger. Others wept. The governor only closed his eyes. 1 hour. 1 hour left to live. Above them, the enemy fleet grew closer. Gun batteries glowed red, charging for the final strike. And then, something strange happened. On the edge of their sensor grid, something moved. A shadow, a shape, small at first, drifting in the darkness, barely noticed against the countless stars. A technician squinted at the screen. Governor, there's an object out there. Unknown class. Not one of ours. Not theirs either. The council rushed to the display. The shape was massive, long, heavy, scarred. Its surface was blackened, as though it had fought wars long before this colony even existed. No energy signals. No weapons active. It drifted like a dead hulk of metal. The governor's heart quickened. Is it a wreck? A derelict? No, the technician whispered. It's moving. Slow, deliberate. The colonists stared at the image in shock. Hope flickered for the first time in days, though none dared speak it. The Empire commander also noticed. His voice filled every channel once more, this time with laughter. So, another scavenger comes to feed on your corpse. Fools, watch how we destroy them as well. 3 enemy destroyers broke formation, turning toward the mysterious vessel. Their engines flared bright as they closed in like wolves. Inside the colony, fear and wonder mixed together. Who, or what, was this silent stranger? The technicians tried hailing it. Static answered. They tried again, desperate, but the dark ship gave no response. It only continued its slow approach, closer and closer, until its massive frame filled the screens. From the shelters, families pressed their faces to old display panels, watching the mysterious arrival. Children whispered, "Is it a ghost ship? Is it here to save us?" The governor could not answer. His hands trembled at his sides. If this ship was another enemy, then it meant only faster death. But if it was not, the moment stretched long, heavy, unbearable. The destroyers reached firing range. Plasma cannons charged. Lights glowed across their sleek hulls. And then the sensors screamed. The black vessel stirred. Faint lines of blue light ran across its surface, like veins awakening after a long sleep. Its engines burned to life. Its hull markings, once dark, now glowed faintly with word in an ancient language. None of the colonists recognized it. Not yet. The destroyers hesitated, scanning the vessel with growing caution. Even the Empire commander's grin faltered slightly. And in that breathless pause, one word, just one, appeared on every comm screen, written in letters that seemed carved from fire. Humanity! The command hull froze. The shelters fell silent. Even the Empire fleet seemed stunned. Governor Talren whispered the word as though it were a forgotten prayer. Humans. But the Empire commander only spat with contempt. Humans? Old myths. Scattered dust. Fairy tale for children. We will burn this ghost, too. Above the colony, the dark ship remained silent, its weapons still hidden, its intentions unknown. But it kept moving closer, slow and steady, like a predator with infinite patience. The colonists leaned forward in fear and wonder. For the first time in many generations, the word humanity was spoken aloud, and no one knew what would happen next. The word still glowed across every screen. Humanity. The colonists whispered it like a legend returning to life. But legends were not supposed to be real. The council stared at one another in disbelief. Mothers in the shelters clutched their children tighter, their eyes filled with both hope and fear. Governor Talren gripped the edge of the command table. His voice shook. I thought they were gone. Stories from the old age. The humans vanished centuries ago. The technician beside him could only whisper, Then what is that? On the screen, the massive vessel moved slowly, as if it had been asleep for ages. Its dark hull bore scars of battles long forgotten, impact craters, scorched metal, shattered armor plates welded back together. The ship did not shine like the polished warships of the Empire. It looked old, tired, but alive. The Empire commander's laughter cut through the air again, sharp and cruel. Do not be afraid, little insects. This human wreck is nothing but an empty shell. We will crush it as easily as we crush you. His orders rang out. Send 3 destroyers. Test its defenses. The Empire fleet obeyed. 3 sleek warships broke formation and advanced toward the silent giant. Their engines blazed bright as they closed the distance. Weapons armed. Cannons charged. The colonists held their breath. Inside the shelters, children whispered to each other, Maybe it will fight them. No, it's too old. Look at it. It's broken. Then why did it wake up now? No one had answers. The destroyers surrounded the dark ship, forming a deadly triangle. From the command hole, Talren could see the comparison clearly. The Empire ships were sharp, fast, powerful. The human vessel looked like a beast from another age, slow, scarred, silent. Why doesn't it move? One counselor asked. Maybe it cannot, another replied. Maybe it is already dead. But deep in Talren's chest, he felt something strange. The word humanity echoed in his mind. Stories from his childhood returned, tales of a race that stood against tyrants, that fought with fire and iron, that never bent a knee. Stories that he had dismissed as old myths. Could it be true? The Empire commander sneered, raising his clawed hand. Fire! Blinding plasma bolts shot out from the destroyers. They struck the human ship's hull in bursts of white fire. Explosions rolled across its surface. The colony command room shook from the energy readings. The technicians cried out. Direct hits. Multiple impacts. The screen filled with flame. For a moment, it seemed over. The old ship would crumble. The myth would die. But then, the fire cleared. The human vessel still floated, untouched. The plasma burn smoked across its armor, but the hull held strong. The black plating glowed faintly, as though drinking in the energy instead of breaking beneath it. The Empire destroyers hesitated. Their captains barked orders in confusion. Governor Talren whispered, It survived. And then it happened. The silent ship stayed. Lights flashed along its spine. The scars of old battles glowed with new power. A low, rumbling sound echoed through the colony comms, though no one could say where it came from. The Revenant had awakened. One of the destroyers turned its guns again, desperate to finish the target. But before the shot could fire, a single flash cut through the void. The human ship had fired. It was not plasma. It was not energy. It was something far more brutal. A slug of solid metal, launched at impossible speed, crossed the space between ships in less than a breath. The destroyer never stood a chance. The railgun round hit with the force of a mountain. The Empire vessel tore apart in silence, a bright flash scattering its remains into nothing. One strike. One kill. The colony gasped in shock. Children screamed and laughed at once. Counselors stumbled back from the display. Another railgun fired. The second destroyer tried to dodge, engine flaring, but the humans shot track true. Metal met metal. The ship vanished in a storm of fire. The third destroyer panicked. Its captain ordered retreat, spinning the vessel away, engines burning white. But it was too late. Another slug tore through its center, splitting it in half. 3 ships, 3 shots, all gone. The Empire fleet went silent. For the first time, they hesitated. In the command hall, one counselor whispered, "By the stars, they are real. Humans are real." The governor could not move. He could not speak. He only stared at the display as the black vessel slowly turned, its guns now facing the rest of the Empire fleet. The colonists began to murmur, voices rising, filled with awe. They came to save us. No, they came to fight them. They are not gone. They are here. But in the Empire's command ship, the scale commander bared his fangs. His laughter was gone. His eyes burned with rage. "Enough games," he roared. "One relic will not defy us. Destroy it. Destroy them all." The entire Empire fleet stirred, weapons charging, engines igniting. Dozens of ships turned toward the lone human warship. The governor's heart pounded. The colonists clung to hope and fear in equal measure. Could one ship fight them all? Could humanity stand against an empire? Above Sayers 4, the battle for truth was about to begin. The void above Sayers shook with tension. Dozens of Empire warships turned their weapons toward the lone human vessel. The fleet was a storm of firepower, cruisers, frigates, carriers, each armed with enough guns to level cities. They moved like a pack of predators, circling the wounded animal they thought they understood. But the wounded animal was not weak. It was waiting. Governor Talran stood frozen in the command hall. His people around him whispered in fear. They can't win one ship against so many. Maybe it will fall like the rest of us. Maybe it is already doomed. Yet in his chest, hope flickered, small, fragile, but alive. The Empire commander's voice thundered across the comms, loud and cruel. "Destroy this ghost. Leave nothing behind." At once, the Empire fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through the void. Missiles howled forward, glowing trails cutting across the blackness. Energy beams roared from the cruisers, each strike powerful enough to rip mountains apart. The sky above the colony burned. But the human ship, the Revenant, did not fall. Its engines flared with sudden life, maneuvering not with the smooth grace of modern warships, but with the raw force of something built for survival. Its heavy hull turned at impossible angles, shrugging off blasts that would have broken smaller ships in half. Its shields, if it even had them, were invisible, but its armor absorbed strike after strike, scarred but unbroken. The colonists gasped as the Revenant disappeared into the storm of fire. Explosions bloomed across its hull, but still it advanced. Still it lived. And then, with terrifying calm, it fired. The railguns unleashed. One shot tore through a cruiser, splitting it in two as if it were paper. Another slug smashed into a frigate, sending it spiraling into the darkness. Each strike was brutal, precise, unstoppable. Unlike the Empire, which drowned enemies in energy and light, the humans fought with weight and speed. They hurled mountains of metal at the enemy, each round a spear of destruction. The colony command hall erupted with cries of shock and awe. "They are cutting through them. Look at their weapons. They fight like gods." But this was no god. This was human. The Empire fleet staggered under the sudden losses. Their commander shouted furiously, demanding tighter formations, ordering them to crush the Revenant with sheer numbers. More ships swarmed in, trying to box a lone vessel in place. Missiles rained down. Plasma strikes blazed brighter. The void turned into fire. Inside the shelters, families clung to one another as the screens flickered with the battle. Children pressed their faces against the cold walls, their voices trembling. "They can't fight them all. Please, don't die." The Revenant answered their prayers not with words, but with fire. Missile pods opened along its scarred sides. A swarm of warheads launched, each leaving a streak of light behind. They split apart, tracking multiple targets, weaving through defenses. Seconds later, half a dozen Empire ships erupted in fireballs, torn apart from within. The colonists cheered. Hope flared brighter. But the Revenant was not unscathed. Its armor glowed from repeated strikes. Massive chunks of plating broke away, tumbling into the void. Fires burned along its spine. Entire sections of the hull looked ready to collapse. Governor Talren gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles pale. It cannot last, not against them all. The council turned to him, desperate. Then why does it fight? Why risk everything for us? Talren had no answer. Only one thought filled his mind. Because they are human. The Empire commander snarled in rage as more of his fleet fell. He slammed his claw against his chair. Surround it. Do not let it escape. Tear it apart. 3 cruisers lunged forward, their combined firepower enough to erase entire armies. They locked onto the Revenant, weapons glowing bright. The colonists watched in terror. If the ship took that full barrage, it would not survive, but the human vessel did not retreat. Instead, its engines roared, pushing it forward like a beast charging headfirst into death. It spun on its axis, railguns locking onto all 3 cruisers at once. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. In less than 10 seconds, all 3 ships exploded into blazing wreckage. The void went silent again. The colonists stared in disbelief. Children cheered. Some cried. Governor Talren whispered, "One ship, and it fights them all." The Empire commander was no longer smiling. His scaled face twisted in fury, but also in fear. This was not supposed to happen. A single relic, a myth, was tearing apart his fleet. The Revenant turned slowly, railguns glowing, engines burning like blue fire. Its weapons aimed at the Empire flagship. The colonists felt their hearts race. Could it be possible? Could one human ship truly stand against an Empire's might? The void seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the answer. The battle above says, for raged on. The Empire fleet, once proud and certain of victory, now wavered. Dozens of their ships had already been torn apart by the Revenant's railguns and missiles. Each human strike was clean, brutal, and final. There were no wasted shots. No mercy. In the command hall of the colony, silence gripped the council. They could hardly believe what they were seeing. A single ship, a relic of forgotten humans, stood against an entire armada. Governor Talren whispered, This is impossible." But on the screens, it was happening. The Empire commander roared in fury. His claws dug deep into the arms of his command chair. "Hold the line. Close formation. I don't care what it costs. Destroy that thing." His voice cracked, his pride bleeding into rage. He had underestimated the humans, and now fear crept into his officers' eyes. The Empire's war machine was built on terror, on the belief that no one could stand against them. But here, now, that belief shattered with every ship that fell. The Revenant did not hesitate. It cut through the fleet with mechanical precision, shifting targets in perfect rhythm. Plasma bolts rained down on its armor, but the ship endured. Every impact shook its frame, tearing away chunks of metal, yet still it pressed forward, silent and relentless. The colonists in the underground shelters watched with wide eyes. Screens flickered with the glow of exploding Empire vessels. Children clutched their parents, whispering in awe, "They can win. They can save us. They are fighting for us." But others shook their heads, fear still gripping them. No, it can't last. Look at its hull. It's breaking apart." And they were right. The Revenant bled fire. Its armor was shredded, its structure groaning under the assault. Whole sections vented atmosphere into space. Yet it fought on, as if the ship itself refused to die. The Empire tried new tactics. Swarms of fighter craft darted toward the human vessel, hundreds of small ships firing rapid strikes. For a moment, the void filled with lights, the Revenant disappearing under a storm of plasma. Governor Talren's heart sank. They are burying it in fire. Then the human ship responded. Hidden turrets unfolded from its scarred hull. Automated guns spun with deadly speed, spitting streams of solid metal into the swarm. Fighters vanished in clouds of shrapnel, cut apart like insects. The few that reached close range were met with point-defense blasts that tore them to dust. The children in the shelters cheered. Even the most hopeless counselors began to believe. The Empire commander slammed his fist into his chair. His voice filled the fleet, sharp with desperation. Do not falter. This ship is nothing but a relic. Numbers will break it, crush it. But his words rang hollow. His crews no longer believed. Fear had entered them now, a fear they had not known for generations. Fear of a word they thought was dead. Humanity. Inside the colony command hall, Tao Ren finally spoke. His voice carried a mix of awe and dread. They fight like no one else. Every strike, every move, it is as if the ship itself remembers war. A technician toned, pale with shock. Governor, look, it's weapons. They are old kinetic designs. No plasma, no beams, just metal. Yet they cut through the Empire like paper. Tauren's hands trembled, because humans never cared for elegance. They cared only to win. The Empire flagship loomed in the distance, its guns glowing with gathering power. The commander had had enough of games. Energy built inside its core, preparing a strike strong enough to shatter a moon. The Revenant turned toward it. Despite the damage, despite the flames that still licked along its hull, it moved with purpose. Rail guns rotated. Engines burned hot. The colonists leaned forward, holding their breath. The Empire commander snarled, "You will not defeat me. I will erase you from existence." The governor whispered in reply, though no one could hear him but his own people. "No, you will not." The Empire flagship unleashed its fury. A massive beam of energy cut across the void, so bright the colony's skies lit up as if a sun had been born. The beam slammed into the Revenant, engulfing it in fire. The shelters screamed. The council cried out. On the screens, the human ship vanished in a wall of light. For several heartbeats, all seemed lost. And then the light cleared. The Revenant still stood. Its armor was cracked, its hull broken in places, but it endured. Smoke and sparks trailed behind it, yet its railguns glowed brighter than ever. The Empire crews gasped. Their commander's roar faltered. The Revenant answered with fire. Its railguns unleashed a barrage, one shot after another, faster than before. Each slug tore into the Empire's fleet. Cruisers exploded. Frigates broke apart. Carriers burned. The void turned into chaos. The Empire's proud armada crumbled before a single, broken ship. Panic spread. Ships broke formation, captains screaming for retreat. The commander's voice cracked as he tried to hold them together. "Cowards! Fight! Fight!" But it was too late. Fear had won. The colonists watched as the impossible unfolded. A myth, a memory, a ghost of humanity was carving an empire into pieces. Governor Tao Ren whispered, almost to himself, "If this is only one ship, then what were the humans when there were many?" Above Sayers 4, the legend of humanity was no longer a myth. It was alive. The Empire fleet was breaking. Ships that once moved with perfect order now scattered in panic. Flames burned across the void as wreckage drifted towards Sayers 4's atmosphere, glowing like falling stars. The Revenant pressed on. It was wounded, battered, scarred beyond belief. But it did not stop. Its railguns thundered again and again, each strike cutting down another enemy. Its engine screamed like a beast refusing to die. In the colony command hall, the council stared at the screens in disbelief. Some wept openly. Others fell to their knees in silent prayer. For the first time in their lives, they were watching an empire flee. Governor Tauren's voice was hushed, filled with awe. One ship, doing what none of us dared to dream. A technician suddenly shouted, pointing at the comms. "Governor!" A signal coming from the human vessel. The room froze. For hours, the Revenant had been silent, answering no hails. But now, for the first time, it spoke. The audio crackled with static, broken and distorted. Then a voice emerged. A human voice. Deep, weary, carrying the weight of centuries. "This is the UNSV Revenant." The council leaned forward, their hearts racing. A relic of war long forgotten. Humanity remembers its allies. Gasps filled the command hall. Tears streamed down faces. Children in the shelters clutched each other as a voice echoed through the colony speakers. It was not just a machine, not just a ghost. It was real. Governor Tauren's throat tightened. His people had believed the humans were only myths, old stories told by elders. But hey, now, a human voice spoke across the stars. The Empire commander's face appeared once more on the comms, his expression twisted with fury and disbelief. No, lies. Humans are gone. Extinct. His ship still fought, but fear had poisoned their ranks. The Revenant tore into them without hesitation, its strikes merciless. The human voice spoke again, quieter this time, but filled with iron. Empire vessel, you will leave this colony, or you will burn. The Empire commander slammed his claws against his console, shrieking in rage. You dare? One ship cannot defeat an empire. You are dust, a relic, a shadow. I will erase you. But the words no longer held power. His crews hesitated. His officers whispered in fear. And the Revenant kept firing. In the shelters, children cheered. Families cried with relief. They spoke to us. They came back for us. The humans are real. The Empire flagship, massive and burning, turned its guns again. Its commander shouted orders, but his voice broke with desperation. The once mighty fleet was now scattered wreckage, and the colonists knew the truth. The Empire was afraid. Governor Talren placed a hand on the console, whispering softly to the human voice. We thought you were gone. We thought the legends were only stories. The Revenant signal crackled again, faint but clear. Legends endure. When darkness rises, humanity returns. The council could barely breathe. It was as if history itself was speaking to them. Talren turned to his people, his voice filled with strength for the first time in days. Do you see? We were not abandoned. The humans did not forget. But even with their hope burning bright, danger remained. The Empire commander was not finished. Enough, he roared. Even if I must burn with you, human, I will see this ship destroyed. His flagship charged its main weapon again, gathering power for a final strike. The remaining Empire cruisers regrouped, throwing themselves between the Revenant and retreat. Their commander's madness drove them forward, even as their fear consumed them. The Revenant, scarred and breaking, turned to face them. Rail guns charged, missiles armed. The old warship did not flinch. Inside the shelters, the colonists prayed. Every soul on Sayers held their breath, waiting for the next moment, waiting for the end, or for salvation. The Empire flagship fired. A beam of light tore through the void, screaming toward the human vessel. The cruisers added their fire, drowning the Revenant in plasma and flame. The colony command hull shook from the energy readings. The screens lit up so bright the technicians shielded their eyes. For an instant, it seemed that the Revenant would finally fall. Then, through the storm of fire, the human warship emerged, burning, broken, scarred beyond recognition. But alive, its weapons lit the dark. A final volley erupted, railgun rounds, missile swarms, kinetic strikes unleashed with unstoppable fury. The Empire cruisers shattered under the assault. One by one, they exploded, torn apart by the storm. And then, with engines roaring, the Revenant drove forward, straight toward the flagship. Governor Talren's voice was barely a whisper. They will not stop. The colonists pressed against the screens, hearts pounding. The Empire commander screamed in rage, but his voice was drowned out by the roar of destruction. The Revenant struck. Its railguns hammered the flagship. Missiles tore through its armor. And when fire alone was not enough, the Revenant rammed forward, its broken hull smashing into the Empire's pride. The void lit with a massive explosion as the flagship split apart, burning in silence. The colony shook with cheers, with tears, with voices raised in triumph. The impossible had happened before their eyes. The Empire was broken, and above Sayers Fall, the Revenant still drifted, wounded but unyielding. The explosion of the Empire flagship lit the skies above Sayers Fall. For a moment, the void became a burning star, scattering wreckage across the black. The shockwave rippled through space, shaking smaller ships off their paths. The colonists stared at the screens, stunned. The invincible flagship, the pride of the Empire, was gone. Governor Talren's hands trembled on the table. He had spent his life fearing the Empire's cruelty, believing no one could ever oppose them. But now, right before his eyes, one ship had done the impossible. Around him, the council erupted with cries of joy. They are running. The Empire is fleeing. Humanity fights for us. In the underground shelters, families hugged each other. Children shouted the word they had only heard in stories. Humans! 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 But not everyone cheered. Some stared at the screens in silence, their joy held back by fear. The Revenant was alive, yes, but it was dying too. The old warship drifted in the void, its engine sputtering. Fires burned across its hull. Entire sections had collapsed, exposing its inner structure. The ship had fought like no other, but the price was written in its scars. Governor Talren whispered, "They gave everything for us." The remnants of the Empire fleet wavered. Some ships had already turned tail, retreating into the black. Others held position, frozen between fear and duty. The loss of their commander left them leaderless, and the sight of the Revenant still standing broke their courage. The human ship's comms flickered one last time. The weary voice spoke again, heavy with exhaustion. "People of Sers, for you are safe. Humanity has not forgotten you." The governor bowed his head, tears welling in his eyes. He had never bowed to the Empire, but now he bowed in gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for coming." The council echoed him, some sobbing openly. The shelters filled with cheers and cries of relief. The word humanity spread through the colony like fire. But the Revenant was not done. The Empire remnant began to regroup, forming a shaky line. One surviving cruiser, its captain desperate to reclaim honor, charged forward, guns blazing. Plasma strikes tore across the void, aiming at the wounded human vessel. The colonists cried out in terror. "It cannot take more. They will finish it." But the Revenant answered with iron. Its railguns flared, firing one last barrage. The cruiser's hull split in two, debris scattering into the darkness. Silence followed. The Empire fleet broke. Ships scattered in every direction, their formations shattered. None dared stay. None dared fight. They fled into the black, tails between their legs, leaving Sers far behind. For the first time in living memory, an Empire fleet had retreated. The colonists wept. The shelters shook with cheers and pounding fists. Children danced, shouting the word humanity again and again. The council turned to Governor Talren, their faces bright with tears and wonder. "What do we tell the people?" one asked. "The truth," Talren replied softly. "That legends live. That hope is not lost. That when the Empire comes, so will the humans." On the screen, the Revenant drifted slowly, its power failing. Sparks crackled along its hull. The great warship looked more ghost than ever now, its once terrifying silhouette broken by damage. Yet even in ruin, it stood victorious. Governor Talren leaned close to the comms. "Can you hear us? Please, let us help you." Static answered. Then the voice came one last time, weak but steady. "This vessel will not last. But the message is clear. Tell your people. Humanity endures." The colonists listened in silence, their hearts heavy yet filled with fire. The Revenant's engines glowed faintly. Slowly, painfully, the ship turned away from Sers fall. Its course was set for the deep void, where no Empire dared follow. The governor shouted, desperate, "Wait! Stay with us. We need you." But the voice did not return. The ship gave no reply. It only drifted into the black, carrying its scars and its secrets. The shelters fell quiet. The council lowered their heads. Tears streamed freely now, not from fear, but from sorrow. The children pressed against the screens, watching the human warship vanish into the stars. "Where are they going?" one whispered. "Why don't they stay?" No one could answer. The last image of the Revenant burned in their minds. A ship that should have been dead centuries ago. A ship that had fought alone. A ship that had saved them. Governor Talren spoke softly, as if to himself. They came from the darkness, and they returned to it. The people of Sers would never forget, and neither would the Empire. Word would spread like fire across the stars. The day a forgotten human warship shattered their fleet. The day myths became real. The tide of fear had turned. The age of silence was over. The Revenant vanished into the darkness, leaving Sers in silence. For days, the colonists spoke of nothing else. Every conversation carried the same words. The humans came. The humans fought. The humans saved us. Children carved the ship's outline on walls. Families whispered the story by candlelight. Soldiers, once broken under the Empire's shadow, now stood taller, repeating the tale as a promise. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity still lived. Governor Tauren gathered his council. Their chamber, once filled with fear, now burned with a different fire. "This is more than survival," he said. "This is a beginning. The Empire will never forget their defeat here. Neither will we. The Revenant showed us what is possible." "But what if they never return?" one counselor asked softly. Tauren's gaze was steady. "Then we carry their memory. We rise because they lit the flame." Across the stars, the Empire reeled from the loss. Reports spread like a plague, whispered in secret channels and shouted in crowded markets. A forgotten human warship had destroyed a fleet, killed a commander, and survived. Fear gripped the Empire's lesser vassals. If one ship could do this, what else might remain hidden in humanity's shadow? In secret, rebellion stirred. In colonies once crushed by Empire boots, people whispered a hope, daring to dream of freedom again. The word humanity became more than a memory. It became a weapon. But Sayers 4 was not done with its story. 3 weeks after the battle, the colony's outer senses triggered again. Ships were approaching. The alarms wailed, and panic spread like wildfire. Families ran back to shelters. Children screamed. The scars of fear had not yet healed, and the thought of the Empire's return chilled every heart. Governor Tauren rushed to the command hall, his chest tight with dread. "No, not now," he whispered. "We are not ready." The screens flickered, showing shapes moving through the void. At first, the colonists trembled, believing they saw the Empire's fleet once again. But then, the shapes grew clear. They were ships, but not Empire ships. Their design was different, raw, and ancient. Their hulls bore scars of countless battles. Their silhouettes matched no known navy. And at the front, leading them, was a broken giant itself, the Revenant. The command hall erupted in gasps. People fell to their knees. They returned. "It's them. It's the humans. They came back." Governor Tauren's eyes filled with tears. He whispered the words like a prayer. "They came back for us." The calm sparked to life once more. The same human voice spoke, stronger now, no longer weary but sharp, commanding. "People of Sayers 4, we are not ghosts. We are humanity, and we are not alone." More voices followed, different tones, different accents. Other ships, other survivors, entire crews. The myth had grown flesh. Humanity was gathering again. The Revenant drifted forward, its hull still scarred, but repaired enough to sail once more. Around it, 6 other human ships emerged from the dark. Frigates, destroyers, even a second cruiser, each one a relic thought lost to history. The colonists stared in awe. What they saw was not just survival. It was rebirth. Governor Tauren leaned forward, speaking into the comms with a shaking voice. "You saved us once. Why return?" The human voice answered with steel. "Because you are not alone. Humanity has waited in the shadows too long. The Empire believes we are broken, but they are wrong. We endured, and now we rise." The word spread through every shelter, every hall, every home on Sayers 4. Children repeated them. Soldiers memorized them. The colony's heart burned with a fire it had never known. But in the Empire's high throne, the news struck like a spear. The Emperor listened in silence as his ministers trembled before him. "Humans!" he hissed, his claws curling tight. "They dare atone." His voice was low, but it carried death. "Then we will burn the stars to ash if we must. They will not rise again." Yet deep in his mind, a seed of fear took root. Fear he had not felt in centuries. The kind only humans could bring. On Sayers 4, the colonists gathered in the open streets for the first time since the war. They looked up at the skies as the human ships moved above them, proud and unbroken. Children pointed at the fleet, their voices filled with joy. "Look, the guardians of the dark. They came back for us." Governor Tauren raised his hand high, his voice carrying across the square. "Remember this day. Remember what you see. For the Empire will come again, and when they do, we will not face them with fear. We will face them with humanity at our side." The crowd roared, their voices shaking the colony's walls. For the first time, CI-4 was not just surviving. It was living. Above them, the Revenant's engines glowed like a second sun. The warship that had once been a ghost was now a symbol, a legend made real. And as its fleet turned outward, into the stars, the message was clear to all who watched. The darkness no longer belonged to the Empire. It belonged to humanity. The legend had returned, and it was only the beginning.